book, Building Your Warehouse of Wealth, written by Nelson Nash. We are in chapter 12, and this is a very long chapter, so I have divided it in several parts, and we actually have read four parts. So today we're going to read the fifth part. On the fourth part, it was about the story of Solomon, the wisest man on earth, which it was one of the kings of Israel because the people wanted a king over them, even though Samuel warned them that they shouldn't do that because they will be turned into slaves. And that did happen. So Solomon was the wisest man on earth, and it will be of forever because that's what God decided. But being so wise, how could he be so stupid? So imagine what hope it is for you and me. If the wisest man on earth made a mistake of having 700 wives and 300 concubines, Nelson makes a joke and he says, well, imagine the amount of mother in laws that come with that. I think that's very difficult to deal with. So, in the chapter today, we are continuing from reading from slavery and back to a solution that Nelson is going to present. But we'll read that. We'll read the solution, I guess, as part 6. So, what happened in part 5 is that Solomon disobeyed God in all that God warned him, because God told him that he shouldn't, that he should be rifled, so he shouldn't marry, he shouldn't have so many wives, and he shouldn't have alliances with other countries. And he did that even in the marriages to make alliances with foreign with foreign entities, foreign governments. So since Solomon disobeyed God, then God punished him by telling him that he was going to lose, or his family was going to lose being the real family in Israel, that it was not going to happen in his life, but one of his children will lose um, being the overall king of Israel. It will be divided with one of the the strong men that work for Solomon. That would be the king of the other part of Israel. So basically, um, that strong man that served Solomon, that became the ruler of 10 tribes, and just the son of Solomon kept the rule over only 2 tribes. So let's go to this. As a result of all the sins of the northern kingdom, they were first to be taken into exile by a foreign nation. The king of Assyria invaded the entire land, marched against Samaria, and laid siege for lay siege to it for 3 years. In the ninth year of Hoshea, the king of Assyria captured Samaria and deported the Israelites to Assyria. That is in 2 Kings 17 5 to 6. A number of years later, Judah fell to the same fate as a result of their sins. They were taken to Babylon and their city of Jerusalem, and the temple was reduced to rubble. Now they were all back in the slavery they had experienced in Egypt. They had rejected their dependence on God and had adopted the ways of all the other nations. All of this explanation has been to bring the story to the book of Ezekiel. The southern kingdom is in exile, and in chapter 23, Ezekiel is revealing to them the message from God, telling them how they came to this fate. When one ends up in an awful mess, one needs to understand how you got there. If this fact is not clear, then you are doomed to make the same mistakes over and over. This is the bane of man's existence. God's message to Ezekiel. Following is the entire 23rd chapter. The word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, there were two women, daughters of the same mother. They became prostitutes in Egypt, engaging in prostitution from their youth. In that land, their breasts were fondled and their virgin bosoms cursed. The older was named Ohola, and her sister was Oholiba. They were mine and gave birth to sons and daughters. Ohola is Samaria, and Oholiba is Jerusalem. Ohola engaged in prostitution while she was still mine, and she lusted after her lovers, the Assyrian warriors, clothed in blue, governors and commanders, all of them handsome young men and mounted horsemen. She gave herself as a prostitute to all the elite of the Assyrians and defiled herself with all the idols of everyone she lusted after. She did not give up the prostitution. She began in Egypt when during her youth men slept with her, caressed her virgin bosom, and poured out their lust upon her. Therefore I handed her over to her lovers, the Assyrians, for whom she lusted. They stripped her naked, took away her sons and daughters, and killed her with the sword. She became a byword among women, and punishment was inflicted on her. Her sister Oholiba saw this, yet in her lust and prostitution she was more depraved than her sister. She too lusted after the Assyrians, governors and commanders, warriors in full dress, mounted horsemen, all handsome young men. I saw that she too defiled herself. Both of them went the same way. But she carried her prostitution still further. She saw men portrayed on the wall, figures of Chaldeans portrayed in red, with belts around their waists and flowing turbans on their heads. All of them looked like Babylonian chariot officers, natives of Chaldea. As soon as she saw them, she lusted after them and sent messengers to them in Chaldea. Then the Babylonians came to her, to the bed of love, and in the lust they defiled her. After she had been defiled by them, she turned away from them in disgust. When she carried on her prostitution openly and exposed her nakedness, I turned away from her in disgust, just as I had turned away from her sister. Yet she became more and more promiscuous. I recalled the days of her youth when she was a prostitute in Egypt. There she lusted after her lovers, whose genitals were like those of donkeys and whose emission was like that of horses. So you longed for the lewdness of your youth when in Egypt your bosom was caressed and your young breast fondled. Therefore, Oholiba, this is what the sovereign Lord says: I will stir up your lovers against you, those you turn away from in disgust, and I will bring them against you from every side. The Babylonians and all the Chaldeans, the men of Pekod and Shoa and Koa, and all the Assyrians with them. Handsome young men, all of them governors and commanders, chariot officers and men of high rank, all mounted on horses. They will come against you with weapons, chariots and wagons, and with a throng of people. They will take up positions against you on every side with large and small shields and with helmets, small shields. Yeah. I will turn you over to them for punishment, and they will punish you according to their standards. I will direct my jealous anger against you, and they will deal with you in fury. They will cut off your noses and your ears, and those of you who are left will fall by the sword. They will take away your sons and daughters, and those of you who are left will be consumed by fire. They will also strip you of your clothes and take your fine jewelry. So I will put a stop to the lewdness and prostitution you began in Egypt. You will not look on these things with longing or remember Egypt anymore. For this is what the sovereign Lord says: I am about to hand you over to those you hate, to those you turn away from in disgust. They will deal with you in hatred and take away everything you have worked for. They will leave you naked and bare, and the shame of your prostitution will be exposed. Your loudness and promiscuity have brought this upon you, because you lusted after the nations and defiled yourself with their idols. You have gone the way of your sister, so I will put her cup into your hand. This is what the sovereign Lord says: you will drink your sister's cup, a cup large and deep. It will bring scorn and derision, for it holds so much. You will be filled with drunkenness and sorrow, the cup of ruin and desolation, the cup of your sister Samaria. You will drink it and drain it dry. You will dash it to pieces and tear your breast. I have spoken, declares the sovereign Lord. Therefore, this is what the sovereign Lord says: since you have forgotten me and trust me behind your back, you must bear the consequences of your lewdness and prostitution. The Lord said to me, Son of man, will you judge Ohola and Oholiba? Then confront them with the detestable practices, for they have committed adultery and blood is on their hands. They, uh, they committed adultery with idols. They even sacrificed their children, whom they bore to me, as food for them. They have also done this to me. At the same time, they defiled my sanctuary and desecrated my Sabbath. On the very day they sacrificed their children to their idols, they entered my sanctuary and desecrated it. That is what they did in my house. They even sent messengers for men who came from far away, and when they arrived, you bathed yourself for them, painted your eyes, and put on your jewelry. You sat on an elegant couch with a table spread before it on which you had placed the incense and oil that belonged to me. The noise of a carefree crowd was around her. Sabians were brought from the desert along with men from the rubble, and they put bracelets on the arms of the woman and her sister and beautiful crowns on their heads. Then I said about the one worn out by adultery, now let them use her as a prostitute, for that is all she is. And they slept with her. As men slept with a prostitute, so they slept with those lewd women, Ohola and Oholiba. But righteous men will sentence them to punishment of women who commit adultery and shed blood, because they are adulterous and blood is on their hands. This is what the sovereign Lord says. Bring a mob against them and give them over to terror and plunder. The mob will stone them and cut them down with their swords. They will kill their sons and daughters and burn down their houses. So I will put an end to lewdness in the land, that all women may take warning and not imitate you. You will suffer the penalty for your lewdness and bear the consequences of your sins and idolatry. Then you will know that I am the sovereign God. So out of the slavery of Egypt and back to slavery in Babylon. They put their dependence on earthly kings instead of God. It didn't work for them at that time, and it won't work for us today. Conclusion. When the Israelite nation left Egypt, God explained right away that He was their king. They did not need an earthly king. They were to put their dependence in Him, not earthly leaders. Again, mankind's eternal problem is that he wants to be God. To observe the ultimate manifestation of the malady, watch what he tries to do with his government. God further explained that he was a jealous God. He won't put up with that nonsense. As a result, mankind is always destined to fail in such attempts. There was never been a socialist, fascist, communist, statist, etc. society that has lasted very long. They are all doomed to failure because of this faulty premise. But as a result of this arrogance, mankind keeps doing the same stupid thing. Now that you see my thesis, you can translate Egypt, Babylon, Rome, and Washington, D.C. If you have seen one, you have seen them all. Today, United States citizens are totally dependent on Washington. If you don't believe it, try to take away a government program of some kind. Americans cannot conceive of life without government programs. Yet, Christians claim that they worship God. Based on their behavior, I don't believe it. They are back in slavery and can't even recognize their situation. Next goes or continues the solution, and that's what I will read as part fifth of this long chapter. Thank you for taking a look this video. And if you have any comment or question, put it on the video that you're watching. I'm putting those videos in Facebook, uh, um, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So in any of those, you can leave your questions or comments under the video. You can also contact me at jorgeeherrera.com. That takes you to my LinkedIn page, and we can start a conversation. Now, if you have followed me, you know that I am qualified and able to set up your dividend paying whole life insurance contract. So you have this powerful platform to get better results in your economy in life. And also, it will help you to raise your family better since it's based on the right values. So, thank you. And I'll see you on Friday with this part fifth in Spanish. Thank you.